Good morning, everybody, and happy Friday. Sorry I'm a couple of minutes late. I was admiring the moon. We had all of our malas. I don't know if you can see over there. Over there. All of our malas are sitting out in the moonlight, and we did a fire last night. And, again, you know the difference between a regular moon and a supermoon, right? Supermoon wears a cape. So it's Friday, and we're heading into the weekend. Everybody's making plans for the world to open back up to our new normal where we get to wear masks as we move all over the place and we have to social distance. So a little recap. Number one thing in life, state management. If you have that, you have everything. If you don't have that, you don't have anything. Second thing that you need to pay the most attention to. Everybody you surround yourself with is who you become. The 5 people you spend the most time with, that's who you're going to become. So make sure you pick that wisely. Spending time with them doesn't mean that you're in physical proximity. It can be listening to them. It can be watching videos. It can be reading books. They don't even have to be alive, and you can spend time with them if you watch videos on them or read books about them. Or you can even make up that you're having conversations with them and have them be part of your team, part of your board that guides you. This is one of the things that they talk about in Think and Grow Rich. Certain fundamental beliefs that you want to try to keep into your head at all times. The more that you incant these things, the more that they become real for you, especially when you use your physical body when you're incanting them. The past does not equal the future unless you live there. It's never a lack of resources. It's always a lack of resourcefulness. You can't control your events, but you can control your response to them. And it's in the moment of that decision that your destiny is actually shaped. So as we've talked about all of that stuff, that we went through our goals, we went through our goal setting workshop and our goal setting ideas, know what you want, take massive action, have sensory acuity, be acutely sensitive to see, are you moving closer to your goal or are you going further away? Don't continue to do the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. That's the definition of insanity. That's correct. So know whether or not you're getting closer. If you're not getting closer, change your approach and try something else. How long do you do that? How many times? Until you get the result. We did lots of examples. We did Walt Disney, 302 banks before he was able to find a bank that would actually finance Disneyland. Thomas Edison, 10,000 experiments before he finally found the incandescent light bulb. And when he was asked, after 9,000 experiments, when are you ever going to quit trying to do this? You've failed 9,000 times. And he says, no, I haven't. I've found 9,000 ways to not invent the incandescent light bulb. I'm that much smarter than everybody else. It's only a matter of time before I find the right one. Obviously, these people kept changing their approach and were tenacious and decided they were going to have this outcome no matter what. And that's really the biggest distinction when it comes to goal setting. When you decide that you're going to create an outcome, that means that you cut off any other options. Decision comes from incision. And when you really do that, you'll in fact figure it out. If you're determined enough, you will find a way. One of the examples that we said was, how long will you give your average baby to walk before you stop trying? And every parent says, I'm never going to stop trying. I'm going to keep trying until they learn how to walk. Well, there you go. Magic formula. No wonder so many people walk. So yesterday I told you a story, one of my Disney stories, and obviously I'm a huge Disney fan. I'm a huge Walt Disney fan. I'm a huge fan of the parks. And I told you the story about driving the race car. And when you spin out of control, you've got to not look at the wall, because if you look at the wall, then that's where you're going to go. Whatever you focus on, you get. Where focus goes, energy flows. So you don't focus on what you don't want. Instead, you focus on what you do want. But it's hard because you spin out of control when you least expect it and when it's least convenient, like a worldwide epidemic, worldwide pandemic. So the director actually took my head and showed me where I wanted to go. Now, when I looked where I wanted to go, did I go there immediately? No. The car kept going towards the wall. But once you do and make that commitment, it will eventually get there, and you'll turn and you'll go where you want to go. A great metaphor for how life works. So I had another experience. I thought I'd do another Disney story, a back-to-back Disney story for something else. And I thought about this last night. I'm watching the Bulls thing, The Last Dance, the documentary on the Bulls on their final run to their 6th title, and it kind of goes back and goes through all of Michael Jordan's life. It goes through the life of most of the players for that matter, and it's very interesting. It's worth watching. It's really well done, and it's really, I think, a blessing to see it because they're so honest. I mean, they're so candid about how they felt and why they did what they did. They're so candid that my dad made the comment to me yesterday. He goes, this will never happen again, a show like this, because nobody will ever be this honest because they'll know what the show is going to end up being like. And I think he's right. So, this is kind of a special moment where you get to see behind the curtain. And if you remember, Michael Jordan came into the league, and he came into the league, very cocky. He said, I'm going to be the best ever, and we're going to win championships. And he was by far the hardest working and the most tenacious and, the alpha of the alpha males, as one guy described him. Michael he was never going to not win at anything. I don't care what it is. He's playing games before the game where they're throwing coins against the wall, and he hates to lose at that. He hates to lose at everything. He's just tenacious. So they go up and they play the Detroit Pistons, the biggest pile of criminal jerks to ever play the game of basketball. But they lose. And then they lose again. And they lost because they got intimidated. They lost because the Pistons were more physical than they were. And initially, and they show part of this in the film, but the second time they lost, when they lost in a Game 7, when they got back on that bus and on that plane, Jordan just exploded on everybody else. He blamed everybody else for what was going on. And then the teams, they went away for the summer, and he realized something over the summer. And he says he realized it on the flight home. I don't know when he realized it, but the lesson that he learned is a lesson that I got from a ride at Disney World. So there's a ride at Disney World called the Tower of Terror, and they've changed it in California now, and it's based upon one of the Marvel movies. I forget which one, but it's the Tower of Terror still down in Disney World down in Florida, and it's based on a Twilight Zone episode. And what the ride is you sit, the ride makes believe that you're in an elevator, and you sit in your seat, and then you're going to drop in this elevator. But the thing is, the ride is never the same. So when you go in, you don't even know if you're up high or if you're down low when you go into the elevator, and it's pitch black. And then they'll take you up and down and up and down and up and up and then down and drop. And then at some point there's going to be a couple of massive drops. But again, you have no idea when it's going to happen. And when they initially drop you, they don't drop you, they pull you. So it isn't like they let you go and drop you. I mean, the device actually yanks you down. So if you set a quarter on your leg, which a lot of people will, it'll fly up in the air to like right here, because people will do that when there's a photo going on. Well, we used to go to Disney a lot. My ex-wife and my daughter and I would go to Disney twice a year, and I hated this goddamn ride. I hated it. And they loved it. I mean, the two of them just loved it, and they would ride it and ride it and ride it. And they would make me ride it at least once. We would get down there, and I would say, I don't want to ride this ride. I hate this ride. And they, come on, Dad, you got to. So I'd have to ride it one time. And I'm telling you, on the flight down there, my palms would start to get sweaty as I would think about this frickin' ride, because I hated it that goddamn much. I just hated it. By the way, can you tell that I was incanting that I hate it? When you say it 50 times with all the intensity of your body, maybe that's going to, work in terms of how you feel. So I would get down there, and the second day, we always went to Hollywood Studios. We went to the Kingdom the first day, and the second day we went to the Hollywood Studios, and I would want to get it over with. I'd be like, fine, let's go ride this ride. And we would ride the thing, and then I would sit there while they rode it like 5 more times, and then I couldn't wait to ride the Aerosmith Rock and Roller Coaster like 9 times, because I love that ride. So this went on for trip after trip after trip. And finally, my daughter, as we were going down, she said, "Dad, you got to do the ride with your arms up." And I'm thinking to myself, are you kidding me? I hate this ride hanging on. There's no way I'm going to do it with my arms up. And of course, they always did. They rode it with it. Most people do. Most people don't. You can hang on to the sides, but most people put their hands up. And you don't have shoulder restraints. You only have a lap belt. And I'm saying if I had shoulder restraints, I'd be fine. The ride wouldn't bother me as much. But I only have a lap belt. And you're not that secure against the seat with the lap belt. I mean, you come off the seat when this thing yanks you down. So Katie's all over me. "Come on, Dad, you got to promise, you got to promise, you got to promise." Well, of course, if Katie asks me to do something, I'm totally going to do it. So on the way down, I commit. Fine. I'll do this stupid frickin' ride that I hate, and I won't hang on. I'll raise my arms. So we get on the thing. I put my arms up, and I finally just stopped fighting it. And I just said, whatever. I'm just going to surrender to this damn ride, and then whatever happens, happens. And I put my arms up and rode the ride. When you put your arms up and surrender to the ride, it's one of the funnest rides in the park. As I was hanging on to the sides, for dear life, the ride jerks you. When it pulls you down incredibly hard, and it jerks you, and it becomes a very bumpy ride. But when you let go, when that thing yanks down, you don't go down immediately. That's the brilliance of not having a shoulder harness on the ride and just having a lap belt. You pause in the air, and then you slowly go down. And then it doesn't stop quickly. It stops gently when it stops, and then it takes you back up, and then it yanks down again, but you have this pause, and then you slowly drop. It became one of my favorite rides in the park. And after that ride, where I let go and left my hands up, I came walking off the ride, and I said to Katie and Lisa, I said, "I need a second. I got to write something down." And I said, "I'm going to go on it again." And they stopped and they said, "You're going to go on it again?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I love that. I'm going to write something down." When I stopped trying to control everything, and instead I focused on myself, and I just controlled my response, and I said, "You know what? I'm just going to let go, and I'm just going to enjoy this." It became my funnest ride. And every time after that I rode that ride, at the end of that ride, I was laughing my face off because I could not believe how incredible that ride was, because it just kicks your ass. It's such an incredible ride. And I would laugh and laugh and laugh. Life is very much the same way. We cannot control everything. We can't control our events. We can only control our response to them. And if we try to control events, we're going to drive ourselves crazy, because you're hanging on too tight and you can't do it. You can't control what other people are going to do. You can't control what your kids are going to do. You can try, but you can't. You can't even control everything your spouse is going to do. But you certainly can't control what your siblings are going to do, what your friends are going to do, what the world's going to do. You cannot control it all. And if you spend your life trying to do that, you will literally drive yourself crazy. And you'll never be happy, and it'll be an early, miserable death, because you'll never enjoy life. But when you let go and you understand that you can't control those things, all you can do is control yourself, and you focus on what you can control, now all of a sudden everything in life opens up to you. What Michael realized on that bus home was that instead of trying to control all these other players and yelling and screaming at them, he needed to control himself. And he realized he was the one that needed to get better. He needed to get bigger. He needed to get stronger. He needed to be able to be more physical so they couldn't push him around. And that's what he did. He had never lifted weights. He had never done any of that stuff. He just played basketball, or as he says, the game of basketball. He started lifting weights. And you know what? The rest of the players followed along. Because if Michael was doing it, they were going to do it. And that's how he influenced them. And the next time, not only did they beat the Detroit Pistons, they beat the living crap out of the Detroit Pistons. They embarrassed them. The Pistons wouldn't even shake their hands after they won. They walked off the court before the time ran out on the clock, never to be heard from again. So my lesson for the day is stop trying to control events that you can't. It'll drive you insane. Stop. If you're divorced and you spend all your time focusing on what your ex-spouse does, that is a waste of time and energy. There is nothing that you can do to control that. If you're in a partnership and your partner does things that you disagree with, you can't control your partner. You can only control yourself. And if by controlling yourself that you cannot influence that partner to take you in the right direction, then stop pushing a bad hand, as they say in poker, and get out of the partnership and get on to something new. Stop trying to change things that you can't control. Stop trying to control things that you can't control. Control yourself. Work on yourself. That's where you put your focus. And focus on where you want to go, not where you don't want to go. That's my lesson for the day. It's Friday. The supermoon was out. The world's starting to open up. We're going to get through this, everybody. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.